So confidence interval for the proportion using StatCrunch with examples. Let's go back to that first question. You want to estimate the proportion or percentage of college students who are satisfied with the new student orientation on your campus. You could take a survey of 200 students who attended the orientation and ask them, did the orientation prepare you for your first year of college? Suppose 124 out of the 200 answered yes. You can calculate a sample estimate p hat, which is 124 out of 200, or 0.62. The question asks you to construct a 95% confidence interval for the percent of all satisfied students and express the answer with 3 decimal places. So that's what the question's going to look like. It's going to look like construct a 95% confidence interval or construct a 99% confidence interval. So what we're going to do is go use StatCrunch. Gather your information, 3 things you'll need for StatCrunch. What is the confidence interval for the mean? What is the sample size? And it says here the sample proportion. What you're really going to look for in StatCrunch is what is the top of that fraction. So what is the X, the number who are satisfied in this case, or whatever it is we're counting, we're trying to make a proportion question about. So X is that thing that we're counting. So how do we use the StatCrunch? We're going to do stat proportion stats, one sample with summary. So it's similar to tstat, except this time it's proportion stats. When we get into it, our first picture here on the right, we're asked for how many successes, how many observations, and then we click confidence interval for P and put in the level of 95%. So we have to write it as a decimal, the 95%. The number of observations is our sample size, N. And the number 124 was the top of the p hat, how many successes. They call it success, but it's really how many people answered the question the way you were looking for them to answer it. That's what they mean by success. So we're going to go look at the output next. And we're given something very similar to last time, the one sample proportion summary confidence interval. It reminds us we're looking for a proportion P, what our count was, and what our total was. So if you get a wrong answer, you might want to go back and see that you didn't type those incorrectly. This is our sample proportion P hat that we found in our population, our lower limit and our upper limit. So our solution is we are 95% confident that the population percentage or proportion who were satisfied is between our lower limit and our upper limit. So that means between 55% and 69% was our percent of people who were confident that that were satisfied. We expect 95% of the time for this to work. Let's do a second example. A poll asked 1,000 Americans, do you dread Valentine's Day? A survey of 1,000 adult Americans reported that 18% answered yes. So in this case, they didn't tell you how many answered yes, they just said it was 18%. So this tells us N is 1,000 and P hat is 0.18. We're asked to construct a 99% confidence interval for the percentage of all Americans who dread Valentine's Day. So our information is that, oh, that's not a hat. It's supposed to be a p hat. 99% confidence interval for the mean, sample size 1,000, and sample percentage p hat is 0.18. In StatCrunch, we know we're going to need to write the number of successes, so let's figure that out first. If we know it's 18% that we're successful, and we have a sample size of n, then our x will be 18% of 1,000, or 0.18 times 1,000, or 180. So this will give us our number of success, is by multiplying our percent, our sample percentage, or our p hat, times our total number n. So putting that into StatCrunch, we're putting in our 180 successes that we just figured out, our number of observations n, and our confidence interval must be a 99% level. Our output tells us our sample proportion, so this is a good way to check your calculation of 180. And we're given a lower limit and an upper limit. So we're 99% confident that the percentage of American adults who dread Valentine's Day is between 0.149 and 0.211. So we're 99% confident, which is as confident as we usually get, that it's somewhere between 15 and 21%.